I never thought I'd be one of those guys who gets blindsided like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and honestly, I'm just trying to get this off my chest because I don't know who else to talk to. My wife Emily and I had been together for about 5 years. We met in college, pretty much inseparable from day one. She was the fiery type, bitchy, sarcastic, but also fiercely loyal, or so I thought. We got married last year and everything seemed perfect. Or at least I thought it was. The thing is, some strange things started happening a few months ago. Small stuff at first, little lies about where she was, odd phone calls that she'd quickly hide. She'd get defensive if I questioned her, say I was paranoid or insecure. I didn't want to believe it, but I started noticing her phone was always in her purse, even when we were at home. She'd delete messages, act secretive, and get irritated when I asked about her day. I figured, okay, maybe I'm just overthinking it. Maybe she's tired of the same routine, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Then came the wedding weekend. My sister Lisa was getting married, and honestly I was more excited about her big day than anything. Emily and I had been looking forward to it, planning to be the perfect couple in front of everyone. The wedding was beautiful, full of love, family, friends, the whole 9 yards. I was supposed to give a toast, and I poured my heart into it. As I was up there holding the microphone, I saw Emily acting just a little too cozy with my best friend Chris. They kept looking at each other, laughing a little too hard at private jokes, and I remember feeling a weird prick in my stomach. It was like my gut was warning me, but I ignored it. After the ceremony, everyone was celebrating, and I was trying to focus on the good stuff. But then I saw Emily slip away from the crowd with Chris. I followed at a distance, my heart pounding. They disappeared behind the barn, and I swear I saw them go into the hayloft. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. I didn't catch them in the act, but the way they split up so quickly, the way Emily looked guilty as. Hell, it wasn't hard to put two and two together. My wife was cheating on me with my best friend during my sister's wedding. While I was standing up there giving my vows, she was sneaking off to hide her secret affair behind the barn. Can you believe that? I stayed quiet for the rest of the night trying to process what I'd just seen. I didn't want to confront her in front of everyone, not then. But the image of her and Chris together, so close, so sneaky, it haunted me. I kept asking myself if I'd missed signs, if I'd been blind because I loved her so much. My mind was racing, and I felt this mix of betrayal, anger, and heartbreak I didn't even know was possible. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head, wondering what I did wrong, why she'd do this to me during one of the happiest days of my sister's life. By morning, I knew I had to find out the truth. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. But I didn't know how to approach her without losing my mind. That's when I started digging, checking. Her phone, her social media, anything that might tell me what was really going on. And honestly, I found more than I bargained for. The messages, the secret calls, the flirtations, she lied about everything. She told me she was tired, working late, stressed about the wedding. She lied about her plans, about who she was talking to. But I saw everything. It hit me like a punch in the stomach that Emily, the woman I loved, had been lying to my face all along. She told me she was just friends with Chris, that it was nothing serious, just some silly fun. But I could see through her bullshit now. She was a bitch about it, too, denying things, calling me paranoid, telling me I was overreacting. She kept spinning stories, making me doubt myself. But I had all the evidence I needed. No way was I going to keep going through the motions with someone who'd betray me like that while I was trying to build a future. I knew I had to make a decision, but I wasn't ready yet. The shock was still sinking in. After I uncovered all those messages and realized just how deep Emily's betrayal went, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and honestly, I couldn't even look at her the same way anymore. Every time I saw her, I saw a liar. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted with everything, had been sneaking around with my best friend behind my back during one of the most important days of my sister's life. It's one thing to find out she cheated, but it's another to find out she did it in such a blatant way, right under my nose. That morning after the wedding, I decided I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I needed answers, and I knew from the way she was acting that she wasn't going to admit anything voluntarily. I took her aside into the bedroom, and the look on her face when I confronted her was something I'll never forget. She tried to lie her way out of it immediately, throwing out the classic, "You don't understand. It was just sex," or "It didn't mean anything." She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, like she thought I was overreacting or that I was just crazy for. Suspecting her, I lost it then. I told her I knew everything about her affairs, her lies, her sneaking around. Her face twisted into that typical "I'm the victim" expression, and she threw out a bunch of bullshit. "You're paranoid, you're insecure, this is all in your head." She kept denying any serious relationship, saying it was just sex and I should just get over it because she still loved me. Of course, she didn't. She'd already thrown her loyalty out the window, and I could see she enjoyed the power she had over me, lying there with that bitchy attitude she always had when she thought she was getting the upper hand. The thing is, I wanted to believe her at first. I wanted to forgive her. Maybe I was stupid for even thinking I could salvage this. But the evidence was right in front of me. The messages, the secret calls, the way she'd act when she thought I wasn't looking. I felt this wave of fury and heartbreak all at once. How could she do this? How could she betray me, especially during my sister's wedding? That was supposed to be a day of happiness, a celebration of love, and she was busy hiding a secret affair. It was like a sick joke, only it wasn't funny, it was real. After that confrontation, things got worse. She started to turn the blame around on me, saying I was jealous, insecure, that I didn't trust her. She told me I was crazy for thinking she'd cheat, that I was imagining things. But I knew better. I knew she was lying, and I could see her trying to gaslight me. I felt like I was losing my mind, honestly. My stomach was twisting, my heart pounding out of my chest. I'd always thought of her as the bitchy but loyal type, but now I saw her for what she really was, a liar and a manipulator. That night I just sat there staring at the wall, knowing I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I felt numb, but at the same time I was boiling with anger. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how much she'd hurt me, but I didn't. Instead, I just said, "We need to talk. You're done hiding things from me." She looked at me with that smug, bitchy expression she always had when she thought she was right, but I was done being her fool. I had enough evidence, enough lies, enough betrayal. I told her I needed some time to think, that I wasn't sure if I could ever trust her again. In the days that followed, everything started to unravel even more. I found out she'd been seeing Chris for a few months, not just during the wedding weekend, but long before. I wasn't naive enough to think it was just about sex. No, this was something deeper to her, some kind of game she was playing. The more I learned, the more I realized how much she'd been playing me for a fool. Of course, she refused to admit it outright, kept throwing out excuses like it was just sex. It meant nothing, or "You're overreacting." But I didn't buy any of it anymore. I felt betrayed in a way I never thought possible. I'd given her everything, my love, trust, my future, and she'd thrown it all away for some stupid affair. I started questioning everything. Was I ever enough? Did she really love me, or was I just some safe choice for her? The anger simmered beneath the surface, but the sadness was there too, a deep, overwhelming sadness that I'd lost the woman I thought I knew. I kept telling myself I'd get through it, that I'd find a way to move on, but honestly, right then, I didn't see any way out that didn't involve pain. I just knew I had to decide what my next step was, and fast. After the initial shock wore off, I started to think about what I needed to do next. Honestly, part of me still wanted to believe she could change, that maybe she was just caught up in some stupid mistake. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. Emily had lied, cheated, and betrayed my trust so many times that forgiveness wasn't even an option anymore. She had gone from being the fiery, bitchy wife I loved to a manipulative, lying cheat, and I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. One thing I realized pretty quickly was that I couldn't stay in the same house anymore. I needed space to breathe, to think. I started packing my things little by little, not loud or dramatic, just quietly preparing for whatever was coming next. I didn't tell her I was leaving right away. I needed time to get my head straight and figure out exactly how I wanted to handle her. Because whatever I decided, I knew I'd have to face her anger, her lies, and her bullshit. She was the kind of woman who'd deny everything even if I had proof in my hand. The day I moved out, I left behind a lot of hurt and questions. I was angry, yes, but also devastated. How could the woman I loved, who I thought was loyal and fiery but honest, turn into this? How could she lie so effortlessly? As I packed up, I found myself going through old photos, memories of better days, and it hit me hard. I'd lost someone I thought was irreplaceable. But I also knew I couldn't keep living with her, not like this. I needed a fresh start, even if it meant starting from scratch with myself. The moment I left, she flipped out. She called me every name in the book, telling me I was overreacting, that I was insecure and paranoid. She even had the nerve to say it was all a misunderstanding, that I was just jealous because she was so hot and all these stupid excuses. But I saw right through her. That bitchy attitude, the way she threw her lies around, it was all about saving herself. She tried to make it my fault, like I was the one who screwed everything up, but I knew better. I hadn't done anything wrong, she had. In the days that followed, I felt a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. On one hand, I was glad to be out of that toxic situation, to finally breathe without her sneering at me or hiding behind her lies. On the other hand, I couldn't help but feel like a part of me was broken, like I'd been punched in the gut and left there to bleed out. I kept asking myself why I didn't see the signs sooner, why I was so blind to her bullshit. I was furious at her, but I was also pissed at myself for not noticing the warning signs earlier. Meanwhile, she was still trying to spin her story. She told friends she was confused, that I was a jealous, insecure man who didn't trust her. She painted herself as the victim, like she was the one being wronged. I could see right through her bullshit. She was just trying to save face, to keep her reputation intact. But I didn't care about what anyone thought anymore. I only cared about how I felt: betrayed, angry, hurt, but also determined to move on. I started talking to some friends, trying to get some perspective. Most of them told me I was right to walk away, that Emily was a bitch and a liar. A few even said I should sue her or do something to make her pay for what she'd done. But I didn't want revenge just yet. I needed to heal, to get my head straight. All I knew was that I couldn't go back. Not ever. That betrayal cut too deep, and it changed everything. Looking back, I realize now that I learned a lot about myself, about how much I trusted, how much I loved, and how quickly things can fall apart. I used to think that love was enough to get through anything, but now I see that trust is everything. If that's broken, then what's left? I don't hate Emily, not really. I just feel sorry for her, for how she threw everything away out of some stupid need for attention or excitement. But I also know I'm better off without her lies poisoning my life. I'm still hurting, sure, but I'm starting to see a way forward, one where I don't have to live in her shadow anymore. After I moved out and took some time to breathe, I started to put the pieces of myself back together. Honestly, I didn't trust anyone for a while, not my friends, not my family. The betrayal left a scar that didn't heal overnight, and every time I thought about Emily and Chris together behind the barn during my sister's wedding, I felt this sick feeling in my stomach. How could she do that? How could she betray me like that in the middle of what was supposed to be a celebration of love? It felt like I'd been punched again and again, and I was just trying to keep from falling apart. But eventually, I realized I had to do something. I couldn't keep carrying this weight around, pretending I was okay when I was anything but. I decided that I'd confront Emily one last time, not for her benefit, but for mine. I needed closure, some kind of final say. I wanted her to finally own up to her bullshit, to tell me why she did it and what she really thought of me. I didn't expect her to apologize or admit everything, but I knew that getting her to face her lies would be part of my healing process. So I reached out to her. I told her I wanted to meet, just to talk. Of course, she played her usual game, acting all bitchy and dismissive, like I was the one ruining everything. She said it was useless, that she didn't owe me anything anymore. But I stood my ground and told her I needed answers, that I wasn't going to keep pretending everything was fine. When she finally agreed to meet, I knew I had to be prepared for whatever she might say. I also knew I had to stay calm, no yelling, no crying, just laying everything out. The day we met, she looked the same, bitchy, confident, but there was a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. I asked her why she did it, why she cheated during my sister's wedding of all days. She rolled her eyes, shrugged, and tried to brush it off. "It was just sex," she said. "Chris and we didn't mean anything. It was stupid, a mistake. You're paranoid, Jake. You're just insecure." That was her go-to line. Blame me, say I overreacted, call me insecure. But I saw right through her. I told her I knew she lied, that I had proof, and that her excuses were bullshit. She got defensive, started cursing, calling me controlling and jealous. She told me I was the reason she cheated, that I didn't satisfy her anymore, that I was boring. That was a new one, that I was boring. Honestly, that hurt worse than anything else she could have said. To her, I was just a safe option, a guy who put up with her bitchy attitude because I loved her. But she wanted to throw me away for some other asshole, Chris, or whoever else she was sneaking around with. I told her I was done, that I'd had enough of her lies and manipulation. I told her I was going to move on, that I deserved someone who wouldn't cheat and lie to my face. She scoffed and called me a weak, insecure fool, but I didn't care anymore. I knew I had to leave her behind, not just because of the betrayal, but because staying with her meant accepting her lies and that bitchy attitude. I told her I was done, that I'd never trust her again, and I left that meeting feeling a strange mixture of relief and anger. It was the closure I needed, but it also made me realize how much I'd lost. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize, and I knew I'd never get her back. From that point on, I focused on rebuilding myself. I started going to therapy, talking to friends, and reconnecting with things I'd let slide while I was with her. It wasn't easy. Every now and then I'd get hit with memories of that weekend, the betrayal, the lies, the sex behind the barn. I'd feel angry, humiliated, and stupid for ever trusting her. But I kept telling myself that I deserved better. I deserved someone who wouldn't cheat on me during my sister's wedding, someone who wouldn't lie and manipulate just to satisfy some stupid need for excitement or attention. The thing I learned through all this is that no matter how much you love someone, trust is everything. Once it's broken, it's almost impossible to fix. And if someone is willing to cheat, lie, and manipulate to hide their affair, they're not worth holding onto. I wish I could say I moved on easily, but honestly, the pain still lingers sometimes. But I know now that I'm better off without her. I've realized that the one thing I really need is to trust myself again, to know that I can spot a liar and walk away before I get hurt that badly again. After I cut ties with Emily and started focusing on myself, I honestly thought I'd be able to move on quickly. But it's never that simple. The betrayal was so deep, so raw, that I found myself constantly replaying everything: her sneaking behind the barn, the lies she told about our marriage, her bitchy attitude when caught. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, unable to sleep, with thoughts swirling around my head. It was like I had a hole inside me that nothing could fill. I tried to stay busy, throw myself into work, hang out with friends, but the pain was always just beneath the surface. One thing I didn't expect was how much her betrayal would affect my view of relationships in general. I kept wondering if I'd ever be able to trust anyone again, or if I'd become this paranoid guy who's always waiting for the next betrayal. But I knew I had to try for my own sanity. I started dating again, cautiously at first. I met a few women, but none of them really clicked. I kept comparing them to Emily, her bitchy attitude, her lies, her sneaky ways, and couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been fooled once, so I was probably going to get fooled again. The worst part was how I felt about myself. I kept asking, why did I miss the signs? How did I not see what she was really like? The self-blame was overwhelming. I'd always been a trusting guy, maybe too trusting, and now I wondered if I was naive for believing in love altogether. It was hard to accept that someone I gave my heart to had used and betrayed me so blatantly. I felt stupid, angry, and broken in ways I didn't even know how to fix. But life goes on, right? Slowly, I started to accept that I couldn't change what happened. I could only control how I responded to it. I made a conscious effort to rebuild my confidence, to remind myself that I was worthy of respect and honesty, things Emily clearly never valued. I started going to therapy, not just to work through the heartbreak, but also to understand how I let myself get played like that. The therapy was a game changer. It helped me see that I wasn't the problem, she was. Someone who cheats and manipulates isn't worth my time or energy. During one of those therapy sessions, I remembered how she lied about everything. About where she was, who she was with, the just sex bullshit she kept spouting. I realized that I'd been so blinded by love that I overlooked the warning signs. I'd ignored the little things, her secretive phone habits, her defensive attitude when I questioned her, the way she'd dismiss my feelings. All those red flags were there, but I ignored them because I wanted to believe the best in her. Now I see that love isn't enough if there's no honesty and respect. Eventually, I started to date again cautiously. I was still guarded, wary of letting anyone get close, but I refused to let her betrayal define me forever. I wanted to find someone who was genuine, someone who wouldn't lie, cheat, or manipulate. It took time, but I got there. I met some women, went on a few dates, but I wasn't in a rush. I knew I had to heal first. I also knew I had to forgive myself for trusting Emily so blindly. That was the hardest part, being mad at myself for not seeing it sooner, for not protecting my heart better. Looking back, I realize I learned a lot from all this. I learned that love needs honesty, trust needs to be earned every day, and that betrayal cuts deep. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I survived the heartbreak, the lies, the betrayal. I'm still standing. And somehow, I believe that better days are ahead. I've come to terms with what happened, and I know I'll never let someone manipulate and lie to me like that again. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing I can do is trust myself. That's the real lesson. Trust is fragile, but self-respect is everything. Now, looking back at everything, I realize how much I've grown through this hellstorm of betrayal. I used to think that love was enough to get through anything, but I've come to see that trust is the foundation of any real relationship. Without honesty, you're just building on quicksand. Emily's selfishness and her bitchy attitude showed me that she never truly valued what we had. She just wanted what she could get, and that included sneaking around behind my back during my sister's wedding, of all times. That act alone told me everything I needed to know. She was no longer the woman I fell in love with. What I've learned is that you can't control how others behave, but you can control how you respond. I could have wallowed in misery, let her lies consume me, or I could pick myself up and rebuild. I chose the latter. I cut her out of my life for good, moved out, and started focusing on myself. It wasn't easy. Sometimes I still wake up angry, remembering the pain she caused. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever fully trust again, but I know I will because I refuse to be a victim forever. I've learned to be smarter, more cautious, and most importantly, to trust my instincts. None of this was easy, and honestly, I still carry the scars. But I also carry a new sense of strength. I'm better now, more resilient. And I've realized that the most important thing is respecting yourself enough to walk away from someone who doesn't value you. Emily's bitchy attitude, her lies, her cheating, none of that defines me. I define myself now. I know I deserve honesty, loyalty, and love from someone who won't betray me behind my back. So, if there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this: be vigilant. Trust is fragile, and if someone shows you they're a liar or manipulator, don't ignore the signs. Love is beautiful, but it's only worth having if it's built on truth. Don't tolerate betrayal, no matter how much you think you love someone, because in the end, your happiness and self-respect are worth more than any lie or sneaky affair. I've learned that lesson the hard way, but I'll never forget it. Now, I'm finally moving forward, stronger, wiser, and ready to build a new, honest life without her.